Hey everyone! Okay, so today's video is all about shadow work and embracing your shadow self, or integrating your shadow self. So first, thank you for joining me. Thanks for watching. If this is something you end up enjoying, or you want to know more of, or you want to watch more videos of me talking to you guys, please like, follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This does go on multiple platforms, so whatever that platform says for you to do, go for it. Also, please feel free to leave me comments, email me for services, like for readings, spiritual guidance, tarot, mediumship, pendulum, whatever you got going on, I can help you with, in most cases at least. So back to the video. So shadow work and successfully integrating your shadow self. So I think the most important term that you are going to hear me say in this video is integrating. So we don't want to just look at our shadow self and investigate it and not integrate it. Like, we don't want to take on our shadow self 100% and kick out the rest of ourselves, and we don't want to look at it and just leave it behind. We want to integrate it into our everyday lives, so that way we feel more whole, we look more whole, and we can be more confident and happy in our daily lives. I will tell you this, there are different types of shadow selves. Like, there's been psychologists who have gone through, and scientists and stuff, who have gone through and they've kind of determined different types of shadow selves. That is something I'm not going to get into in this video because there's quite a few of them. But if that is something you're interested in determining, definitely do some research on it, look it up. There's a lot of really great information in there. And I mean, it's something you can just Google. There's a lot of information out there for you. But okay, so to tell you what I'm talking about, for those of you who have no idea of what your shadow self is, it is the side of you that's essentially repressed. So a lot of times a shadow self is something that has come from trauma and, you know, important life events that kind of changed you in one way or another, that ended up making you feel like you needed to repress part of yourself, or repress emotions, repress, you know, maybe there's things that you wanted to do that you didn't, that type of stuff. And, you know, it just kind of keeps building and building and building, because sometimes it gets to a point where people don't even realize they're doing it anymore. Sorry, I'm used to having my glasses. I have to fix them. But so you want to let go of that repression. You want to recognize what you're repressing, why you're repressing it, and you want to integrate those feelings into your everyday life, so you don't feel like you have to repress them anymore. You're not holding it and bottling it in anymore. So you're not going to, you know, explode with emotion anymore. You're going to calmly let it out when it happens. You know, you're going to live in the moment with it, and you're going to accept it, you're going to live through it, and then you're going to move on from it, instead of holding on to it and really not doing any of those steps. Just holding on, biting your tongue, and hiding, essentially. So into that. So we don't, like I said, we don't want to only seek to figure it out, or only seek to investigate it. We want to we want to do those things, but we also want to nurture it and heal it. Not just look at it and be like, oh yeah, no, I really don't like that part of myself, so, you know, I'm just gonna leave it there. No, we want to work on that, and because even if you don't like that part of yourself, it's there for a reason. A lot of times it's probably the fight or flight response that you've just been holding in, because you're like, you know, if I leave, this is gonna happen, or if I say that, that's gonna happen, and you're just afraid of the reaction. But those reactions are there for a reason. A lot of times, like, I know my shadow self is a lot of times the protective side, and the side that wants the best for me, while I'm over here like, no, but if I don't do this, then they're not going to get the help they need, and basically putting their problems on myself and putting my problems aside, so that way I can help everybody else but not help myself. So I repress so I end up repressing everything that I need. But so in nurturing it and healing it comes after recognizing what it is and accepting it. So this could be as simple as maybe you feel like you talk too much. So you hold in everything that you want to say, or you only speak at very certain times, like you really feel out the situation and then you talk. And that's not really bad. I know a lot of people that talk too much, including myself, get told all the time, like, dude, you talk too much, or do you know you interrupt everybody, or this and that. And for a long time, I actually tried to completely just stop. Like, I would just sit there and I would listen and I would listen and I would listen. And it got to the point that my friends were like, I'm looking for advice, like, you can talk. And so eventually I started getting back into that, not necessarily interrupting. I do still interrupt, but even myself. But so not necessarily interrupting, but I started, learning to feel out the situation and like, okay, like now I can talk. And like really holding on to those thoughts so I wouldn't forget them just because I'm not interrupting someone. And so it can be as simple as that. And so that's something that, like, once you realize you're doing or realize you're repressing, you want to tell yourself it's okay. Tell yourself, it's okay that I do this, or it's okay that I have this flaw or this quirk or whatever you want to call it. And I would like to work on embracing it and improving it. I want to be able to let that out, but I want to do it in a way that is going to be okay. I'm not going to be hurting other people, or I'm not going to be hurting myself. Or I'm not, it's just not going to get in the way of my everyday life, but it's going to improve my everyday life by embracing this. So like with that, like I said, I worked on learning to integrate my thoughts and my communications in a more effective way. So I wasn't always interrupting people, but instead I was taking, I was taking turns with it. And so that is, that's my best example, my simplest, easiest example. And it takes a lot of honesty and courage with yourself and with others, because some of these things, you'll have to be honest with others about what's going on. You have to tell them, like, look, this is something I've been holding back. But it's something you're gonna have to tell others that you're working on, because some of the stuff, you may not know how to control, you may not know how to react at first because you've repressed it for so long. So you have to be able to communicate that with others, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And my honest, true advice on how to get started into this is honestly get creative. Even if you don't feel like you're a super creative person, the mantra that really helps me with really connecting with every other side to myself, like my higher self, my shadow self, all of that, is my ego melts away. I let my ego just kind of fade away into the dust or into wherever it goes. Because I feel, for me, and from my experience with working with other people, our egos are the thing that gets in the way the most. Because that's the thing that really cares about what other people think and all of that stuff, the thing that goes with the social norms and all of that. So I really try to let my ego go to the side, and I kind of, like, I tell him, like, okay, you know what, like, I want to see what my shadow self has to say today, or I want to communicate with my higher self, and what do you have to say, what could you show me? And I write it all out, or sometimes I draw. Like, I like to draw trees and stuff to really get into, like, a zone of not just being my ego. So I highly suggest trying to get creative with it. Write poems, write music, just keep going until you don't feel like you can't write anymore. Write your past. Like, that's a great way to start, is writing like your memories, writing your past of things that have hurt you, things that maybe you're repressing. Maybe you're like, I don't think I'm repressing this, but I think about it often, or I've never really told anyone about it. So you go ahead and you write it all out, and you make sure that you write every detail or every feeling that you have. That's a really great way to get started. I'm sorry for all the background noise. I chose to be at a park today, and everybody's choosing to come out like right now. But so I'm sorry. I will definitely be checking this to make sure the audio is okay. Yeah, so after you do that, and after you get creative, and after you're really starting to try to communicate your needs to others and the people around you, or even to yourself, because that's the biggest step, is admitting to yourself that you need to work on these things. That's really the biggest steps. And then you want to make sure that whatever you're repressing is not, that when you bring it out, that you're bringing it out in a productive way that's not going to hurt yourself or others. So while you're doing this, if you do feel like bringing this out is too much, or you just need extra help, please go get help with that, whether it's a trusted friend that you talk to, or maybe you go to a counselor, or anything of that sort. Please do not go through this alone, especially if you feel like it is a lot to take on, because some people definitely repress some pretty serious stuff. And also, definitely, look into the terms, look into the different types of shadow self and all of that, because it's all really great information, and all it can do is really help you. Just don't, if it doesn't resonate, don't take it. So don't read everything and be like, oh, all of them is me. That's not necessarily true. Just think about it, meditate on it, and find out what really resonates with you, and let that help you. Let that help be part of your guide. I think that's really all I really have on shadow selves right now, but if you have any questions, also, I talked about shadow work. Anything that has to do with your shadow side that you're working on or that you're working with is shadow work. I know when I first started getting into this, I saw a lot of people saying like they only do shadow work, or they work with like dark magic and that shadow work and stuff. From what I've researched in my own experience, that's not the truth I see. Even if you Google it, like if you Google shadow work, it's going to talk about working with your shadow self and working on your shadow self and embracing and integrating it. So anything that you're doing with this is shadow work. Just so that is cleared up from my standpoint, because I have had people ask me, how do you do shadow work? This is how. You embrace your inner shadow self, or your inner shadow selves, and you trust them, you put trust in them, you heal them, you really work on your inner self, you do that deep inner work with yourself, so that way you are whole and complete, and then you work through that and you work with that. So from there on out, as you're complete everything, you're no longer have this shadow self and this like higher self, or the shadow self and this ego self. You just have you. And so it makes for stronger work, it makes for better work, it makes for a happier you, it makes for a happier environment. It's a really beneficial thing to do, so it's highly recommended and suggested in the spiritual side. Okay, well, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to message me, leave them in the comments, whatever. Like, follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you would like to book a service with me, I do have a YouTube special running right now. It's $60 for 40 minutes, and that's tarot, spiritual guidance, or mediumship. I also have other services available, but those are the ones that are running with that special. All of my information, including my Patreon, which is a subscription service that does include readings, will be in the description. Or if you're on other social medias that this is on, that's not YouTube, it is all over my social medias, except for YouTube, where it's just in the description. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought, and Yeah, thank you.
Bye.